And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Ascension, Storm of Souls. Now, I was not impressed with Ascension when it first came out. Actually, I wasn't unimpressed with it. I just said, it's okay. It felt like kind of a Dominion spin-off that just wasn't nearly as interesting and didn't offer the strategic depth. And then I watched as this thing just took off. I could not believe how many people liked Ascension and how many people play this game. It's craziness. In my game group alone, I see people playing this all the time. Magic the Player has been drawn to it. And you know what? So am I. I'm playing it more and more. So I have to say I was pretty pleased when I heard a new expansion was going to come out. What new things does this add? Let's look at it. Alright, a quick refresher if you've never played the regular Ascension game. You're going to start the game with 8 apprentices and 2 militia to form a deck. And you're going to shuffle that deck and you're going to start the game with those cards. Now, most cards in Ascension are going to give you one of two things. Runes, which is essentially money. You can see the Mystic here gives you 2 runes. And then the Heavy Infantry here gives you 2 military. They're kind of 2 different currencies, and then there's also victory points, which you have here, and there's 1 victory point, or this is 5 victory points. You put a certain amount of victory points here, depending on how many players are involved in the game. At the beginning of the game, you're going to take cards from this draw pile, and you're going to place them face up here in the middle. Some of these cards are monsters, and they can only be defeated by military, and the rest of them will have a cost up in the top corner, which shows how many runes you need to buy that particular card. So I draw my initial 5 cards and I look at them and, 5 apprentices. So I have 5 runes to spend. So I have several options here. I could buy this auto builder here for 5. I could buy the canopy jar for 4. I could buy these for 1. Or I could buy these mystics and heavy apprentices, which give 2 in each thing. These are always kind of like a backup thing to buy. And I can mix and match. So let's say I don't want to buy that, so I buy the Void Militia. They cost 1, and I instantly will put a new card out here. And then I have 4 left over, so I buy the Canopic Jar, and then my turn is done. Everything that I bought and everything that I spend, whether I use it or not, is discarded, and I will draw 5 new cards. And then on my next turn, after their player goes, I say, I have 2 military strength and 3 purchasing power. Well, I'll buy a Mystic with my purchasing power, but this 2 military strength, what am I going to do here? Well, I could conquer, the Fettered Ghost here costs 3, so I don't have enough to conquer him, but there's always this cultist here on the side of the board that I can beat up. We always call it beating up the cultist, and I get 1. I don't do anything with the card. That card always stays there, but he's worth 1 point, and I'll take the point from the middle of the table. Other monsters, when you beat them, they'll give you a reward, and then that card is banished to the void over here. And there are other ways that you can banish cards from the void. There are cards that let you thin your deck down. Once you run out of cards to draw, you will reshuffle all the cards that you bought, and as you draw these new cards, you're able to use these cards. And some of these cards are hero cards, like here, a Void Hero. So you play it and do whatever it says, like here it just gives you 1 military, and you pay 1 military less the next time you defeat a monster in the center row this turn. That's fine. So I get that and I discard the card. Other cards are a construct. A construct, you play it, and it will stay in front of you as future turns go by. Although your opponent might be able to play cards that make you discard it. Like this one, once per turn gives you a military power. And once per turn when you defeat a monster in the center row, you get a rune. Well, that's great. So I put that in front of me, and that will work on every turn for the rest of the game. When the game is over, and the game is over when all these points are gone, players will take their decks and they will look through and add up all the victory point values of the different cards in their decks. They will also then get points equal to the number of points that they've gotten from the middle, from killing monsters or maybe other means, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Alright, so that's basically a refresher on how this game works. Now let's take a look at this particular version, because this is, while it's a standalone game, it's an expansion to Ascension, and we want to talk about the things that change here. Now, Just like the first expansion for Ascension, there are these cards here with this black background, which says Fate. And the way these cards work is when they are turned over and put into the center row, something will happen to the players. For example, this one here says, when this enters the center row, each player may look at the top card of their deck, and they may put it in their discard pile. So that kind of adds a little bit of strategy to the game, and so there's more of these involved in the deck. This game adds something completely new. There are what we have event cards that are in the deck. When these come out, these do not go in the middle. Instead, you can see there's a spot here to put an event card. And this event will do something different. For example, the Rise of the Cult. Cultists and Fanatics have +1. And their rewards have +1. So they're harder to kill Cultists and Fanatics, but they're +1. There's also something here called the Event Trophy. Well, what does that mean? Well, in this game, there are now trophy monsters. You can see the word here, trophy monster. When you kill a trophy monster, it doesn't go to the void like most monsters. Instead, you put it in front of you, and in the future, you can discard it. See here it says you may banish this to gain 1 military strength. Here, the Minotaur. You may banish this to draw a card. The Unchained Fates. You may banish this to draw 2 cards. You may banish this to gain 1 power. And so you can do that, but you can also banish a card to get whatever the reward is here. And in fact, next to the board, now we have a pile of Fanatics over here. These guys are always able to be beat up. You know, we're punching the Fanatic now, just as was the Heretic. They only give you 1, but you get to take it and put it in front of you, and you may banish this to gain the current event trophy effort. So whatever this is here, it's gain 1 point. So if I beat this guy, I get a point, and then I can banish him to get another point. But as the event changes, so will the reward. This event trophy is a draw a card. This one here is get a rune. This one here is banish a card in your hand or discard pile, etc. You can only have 1 of these Fanatics in front of you at a time, but there's enough here so that each player can have 1 as the game progresses. So these events are going to change the game. The only thing I would say about the events is when you play the whole game, where you mix this deck with the original deck and you have a giant stack of cards, the events won't come out that often. But with the trophy monsters, there's also other things in the deck that I want to talk about specifically for this expansion. Here's a cool card. This one, the Snake Shaman, says gain 1 rune. If the current event is lifebound, gain an additional rune. So if the current event is lifebound, and I'm assuming more events are going to show up as time goes by because there's only 1 in the deck currently for the lifebound. So there are cards that will apply as long as there's an event. Draw a card. If the current event is enlightened, draw an extra card. Then there's some other cool cards in the game. I like this one, the Umbral Edge. Once per turn, gain 2. Gain an additional 2 if you control the Penumbral Edge. And so if you have 2 different cards in your hand, you can get a bonus. And then Prime is a great new construct. Acquire a construct or gain 3. I just think that's, I'm sorry, it's a hero. But it's a really cool hero. It can give you 3 or just give you any construct on the board, which is a pretty neat thing. Scrapfinger lets you destroy a construct to get extra money. I like the thematicness of that. Abolish here lets you gain 1, but you can banish a card in your hand to get extra money. So it lets you banish a card and get money. Here you can do banish cards to get military might. The Vortex is a new monster, which I thought was cool. You get 4 points and you flip this card from a height of at least 1 foot, wherever it lands. Any card it touches. Well, that was pretty bad, and let's try that again. Oh, wow. Okay, well, this is no good for me, apparently. Any card that it would be touching, so I would do like this, I could then acquire or defeat that card. The new powerful Lifebound hero, the Avatar of Ariana. You can acquire heroes by paying cost equal to their victory points. So, if there's a hero in the middle of the table, let's say this hero Lionheart, instead of paying 5 for him, I can pay 3 because that's his victory point. Speaking of this Lionheart, he has an ability called Unite. This is a new ability to this expansion. Unite gives you the effect if you've played another Lifebound hero this turn. So the more you have of Lifebound heroes, you can use their Unite ability. So he'll give you 3 points, but if you have another Lifebound hero that you've played that turn, he'll let you draw a card. This guy gives you 3 money, but will also give you 3 military, again, as the Unite ability. This guy gives you 1 rune and 1 victory point, and he'll give you another rune and victory point as long as you have the Unite. So those are some of the cards that are in this expansion that I thought added some uniqueness. And there's plenty of other cards that I haven't even shown you that are still new and to this expansion. I'm still not a fan of the artwork in Ascension. Don't know what the deal is with that, but this is a great game. It's really grown on me. I will say that I probably play it a lot more on my iPad now more than anything else. The implementation there is fantastic, but this expansion is not yet available on the iPad, so if you want to play it, you got to play it here in the box. This is a little more complicated than the original game. The original game is very simple. These cards are a little bit more complex to play, so you have to realize that there's an added level of complexity, especially with events and the trophy monsters and so on. That being said, if you've played Ascension, these things just add a little bit more, and it makes sense on how they fit together. So I like that aspect of it. I love the complete diversity. The events, I like them. I don't think that they're critical to the game, but I'm interested to see how they'll be used on the future. The trophy monsters, those are really cool. I like them, and I like having an extra 3-point guy that I can kill now, because it seems like you often end up with 3 points of military during the course of the game. The production is nice, everything. I had to take out the insert, but I was able to fit everything from all the expansion, both the expansions and the base game in here. The artwork on the Mystics and the other new cards, the cards that were in the original game, are the same. The game mixes together well, except for, like I said, the events are a little too scattered, so we'll need some more events. Maybe it'll make little event packs, we'll see. But the game still seems really balanced and well, and it's going to be one I think that's going to be played for quite a while. A solid expansion. If you've never played Ascension before, I still think you should pick up the base game, but you could pick up this one and you have the whole game in and of itself.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.
Yeah?